Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're going to talk about the spawn. It's springtime. And with springtime, your lakes are going to turn over, and then you're going to start looking for those spawning bass. Now, if you have any questions regarding the spring or fall turnover, I did do a video on that, which I will put a link to that video in the description below. Do check that out if you have any questions. But to get back to the spawn, you want to look for temperature. And 60 degrees seems to be the magic number for that. You want your lakes to be stable or above that 60 degree mark. And I brought Deeper out here today, which I tossed it out here in our local lake just to see what the temperatures are. And it's reading right now about 73 degrees, which I'll put a little pop-up so you can see what it's picking up and some of the sonar, along with some fish that it's picking up, which the bluegill are very interested in it right now. But it's reading about 73 degrees currently. So once your waters are at that stable 60 degrees and above, you're going to start looking for some spawning bass. Now, the male is the one that makes the bed and guards the bed. So the male is going to look for an area that is going to be well protected. It's going to have some structure maybe around it, maybe some stumps, and it's also going to be an area that can be protected from wind, because those shallower beds, which you're going to find shallower beds in those murkier waters, because that light can't penetrate as deep and can't heat up the water as fast and as deep as it can in a clear water lake. So you're going to find in murkier waters about 1 to 4 feet is where you're going to find those beds, and then studies have shown that in clearer waters they can find beds up to 20 feet deep. But they're going to look for an area that's going to be protected from environmental factors like the wind, and also protected from predators. They prefer a hard substrate, so something with rocks or pebbles or shell beds or things like that. And once they find an area that they want to make their bed in, then they're going to fan out and create their bed, which is almost like a circular pattern. Now once they've created that bed, they're going to go off and they're going to look for a viable or a ripe female, which is a female that's ready to lay her eggs. And then he's going to bring her back up to the bed, and they're going to do their mating ritual, in which some of you may have even witnessed. You may see them turn on their sides to where their vents are close, and they'll shudder. And when they shudder, that's when you have that release of egg and you have that release of sperm. And when those eggs are dropped, they're going to adhere to that bed. Now, once the eggs have dropped, that female is going to move off, and the male is going to stay, and he's going to guard those eggs and protect those eggs. Now, during this time, the male is actually going to fast. So he is not going to be out looking for food or anything else. His sole purpose is to guard those eggs. And he'll be there for approximately 2 weeks, as it takes those eggs time to hatch and then to get large enough to where they can move off the bed and go on their own. And then he'll leave and he'll go and he'll feed. So during that time, while the male bass is guarding these beds, you're going to look for more of a reaction strike, because again, they're not eating. So they're not looking out for something that they can eat. They're going to look out for something that is trying to get at their bed, that they're going to protect their bed from. And for those reaction type baits, I'll refer you on to some of Jim's videos, which we can put some links in the video below as to what baits are best for those reaction type strikes. But now, science says that when the female is done laying her eggs, that she's done. She just moves off and she goes on, she does her own thing. But now anglers have seen, Jim's seen, I myself have seen, and even I've seen professional anglers on TV, they will pull those males, get that reaction strike bite, and pull those males off those beds. And when they do, they see those females, those larger females will come up then and protect those beds. So this is one of those instances where what science is saying and what anglers are observing are two different things. So again, do be aware of your surroundings and what you're observing, and go with what you're observing. To get back a little bit to the spawn, Now, your males and females will mate more than once during a spawning period. A female will drop her eggs over about the course of a month during this spawning period. And what that means is that first time she'll drop about half of her eggs. And then she may go on to spawn 2, 3 more times within that month until her eggs are completely depleted. So within one male's bed, there may be a few different mating series where he had mated with a few different females. So he has a nice amount of eggs. So right now, I don't know if you guys can see in the water or not, but I'm sitting in a nice spot and I've been watching this male bass guard his bed for a while now, and I'm really hoping that you guys can see this. But what he's doing is, even with me being here, when I sat down, I shoot off a lot of the bluegill, but now they're slowly coming back, but he never left this bed. He has stayed within the vicinity of this bed and he's guarding this bed. And any time a bluegill comes near it, he goes after him and he goes right back to that bed. So again, that just shows you that that reaction type is what you're going to look for whenever you're targeting spawning bass. Now, I'm going to show you guys some video that Jim and I took when we were down in Branson. And I'm going to explain kind of this area. There's going to be some pictures and a little bit of video here that you will see. But in this area, you can see these large areas where you can see the nests of, we're not for sure if they're bass or not, what they were. But you can see these large areas where they've fanned out and created these beds in this well-protected area. Now, to give you an idea of this area, this is right up against the fountains along the landing. And so the fountains has this rush of water that comes over, so they've kind of got this nice water that moves over. The sun can penetrate right there, so it's nice warm waters right there. It's pretty shallow. And then right underneath that, there's a walk-out bridge that goes right around that area, kind of like a semicircle out around that area. And right underneath that, there's this huge drop-off. And you can see on the other side that it gets really, really deep, really dark. Lake Taneycomo was the lake that this was on. And Lake Taneycomo was very clear water. You can see to the bottom, and you can tell right here in this area that it is very deep. Now, this is one of those instances I would have loved to have had deeper on me. So I could have just tossed it over the side and seen what was going on under that water, just how deep it was, and see some of the structures. We saw a few large trees sticking out, but it would have been great to know what those water temperatures were and how deep that was. But anyway, to get back to these beds, you can see the fry swimming around in these little schools or these little groups, and you can see that they're staying very close to their beds. Now, what bass will do is, again, that male is guarding those beds, and those eggs, it takes them about 2 to 4 days for them to hatch. And then once they hatch, they'll begin to feed on zooplankton, and then as they get a little bigger, they'll move up to insect larvae, and then as they get a little bigger, they move on to fish. And that's approximately when they're about 2 inches long. And this whole period for them to get to that point takes about 2 weeks. So that's where you have that 2-week range, or that approximate 2-week range, where that male bass is going to be fasting. So after that 2-week range, after they're about 2 inches long and they begin to eat on fish, that's when they're going to disperse and kind of break up that school and move away from the bed. And that's when that male bass is going to go off and he's going to feed. But guys, that's about what's happening during the spawn. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yup.